How did you first meet?
Barbara and Peter Guy met in Stowe, Vermont, December of 1956. Barbara had quit her job in West Springfield, Massachusetts, and Peter had quit school before the end of his freshman year at Williams College.
Peter asked me if maybe I'd like to go to the movies. And I said, sure, because Peter had a Corvette and I had never been in one. So that was the first date. And here we are, 62 years later.
She was easy to get to know because she liked everybody and got along with everybody. I was attracted to her ability to make friends. It was appealing to me.
One thing led to another, and Peter ended up spending the summer at Barbara's house while attending summer school at the University of Massachusetts. They were married that summer, and Williams agreed to let him continue, but as a freshman again. Peter Jr. was born that spring, and Carrie, their second son, was born 14 months later. So Peter graduated in June of 1960 with a wife, 2 small sons, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in geology. That spring, while Peter was interviewing for job opportunities, they got a phone call from a friend of his. It was an offer from Chuck Rolls to come out to Aspen that summer to help open a restaurant.
It just was too appealing to disregard the offer. We hadn't skied out west, and we were used to the boilerplate or slush and rain.
So Peter drove out in a small Opel station wagon with her Dawn and got to Stapleton Airport just as Barbara was landing with her 2 boys.
Then we started for Aspen. We were both just blown away by the beauty. It's heartbreakingly beautiful if you've never seen it before.
They spent the month of June finishing off the details of turning a bare basement into a restaurant, and the steak pit opened for the 4th of July weekend. It was during the first few years that they discovered the energy, the creativity, the sense of community that was so prevalent throughout the whole town. The locals seemed to welcome newcomers, regardless of who you were or where you came from.
So you just gradually kept meeting people just out and about doing things.
Everybody was just so helpful and so friendly that was the way the town was at that time, and it was just a wonderful experience that way.
The steak pit was wildly successful and becoming Aspen's longest-serving restaurant, second only to the Crystal Palace.
The restaurant was easy. It was such a simple format. 3 or 4 steaks, and we had a beef kebab, and self-service salad bar with just, I think, 2 or 3 dressings. It was such a simple operation to run, and it was popular. The timing was perfect.
The first restaurant I had to wait on a couple nights. So I'm waiting on this table, and someone asked me, now what is the difference between a sirloin and a New York steak? So Barbara goes to the broiler man, who's Chuck Rolls, and I said, Chuck, what's the difference between a New York and a sirloin? Jesus Christ, Barbara, I don't know. Tell him anything. So I break into tears and run out the back door.
A big part of our success was the employees. We just seemed to end up with people that had fun doing what they're doing and took care of business at the same time and all got along. It led to just, I guess, kind of a sense of family, and that suited us perfectly.
It was a very well-run restaurant, and it's because they, respected us and we respected them.
And so everybody wanted to do a good job for them because they were so good to their employees.
I guess I started cooking employee meals. It was a nice gathering, like half an hour before the doors opened.
It wasn't about which night was the best money, it was what night does Barbara Guy cook employee meal? Those were the nights I wanted to work.
On Sunday and Mondays were the nights that you wanted to work because Barbara Guy cooked those employee meals, and she styled us big time. Any kind of pie that she made was absolutely to die for.
I still hear from a couple of them, Peter Ferroni, banana cream pie. Oh, give anything for banana cream pie.
Peter and Barbara treated us like their own family.
Just the way they took care of everybody, you know, it was like a big family, and to be a part of that was amazing.
Volunteering came easily because everyone was so quick to offer a hand whenever needed. Barbara was soon helping as secretary at the Aspen Community Church and then the thrift shop for 8 years. Peter was appointed to the Pitkin County Planning and Zoning Commission because of his work with the 1966 master plan.
It was the 1966 master plan that started me out. And I was interested because by then I felt as if I was part of the community, and I loved it the way it was, and I really wanted to see that there be some thought put forward into how it was going to grow. Because of that involvement, I was appointed by the county commissioners to serve on the county P&Z.
My admiration of Peter Guy began almost immediately when I walked into the first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. He was chairing. He did not demand respect. He earned it because he was so gentle and quiet, and most of all because he had a rudder, and he mostly listened to other people. He listened and listened and listened, and then would quietly express his own opinions. He practiced civility before it was cool, and when we really needed it here.
He was then asked to fill a vacancy on the Aspen School District Board.
He was one of the most dedicated people on that board. Peter Guy had the ability to understand the perspective of every individual on that board. And in his very quiet, determined way, Peter was able to take everybody's position, which weren't always the same, and turn them into a process that would work, because he had a very understanding and calm and determined approach to getting things done.
Peter was also involved in the creation of the Aspen Chamber Resort Association and the Aspen Restaurant Association. Barbara started working at Gretel's restaurant on Aspen Mountain around 1972. It wasn't long before Gretel had enough confidence in Barbara and the crew to take a day off instead of working 7 days a week.
At that point, she already had the nickname Sarge, and it was a perfect name for her.
If she was unhappy with something, she was the one that would let it be known. She was feisty.
One of the very special events was a skit that became known as Short People.
There's some music going on, and it's Randy Newman's Short People, and they're dancing they're just kind of doing this more than a full-on dance to Short People. And it was just an incredible end to a great 10 years with Gretel.
Barbara remained with Gretel for 15 years. Peter and Barbara worked tirelessly with the Aspen Ski Club. Barbara helped with all the fundraising events.
I think Barbara was very active and interested. We women and all the volunteers became very active helping with the fundraising for the Aspen Ski Club.
Peter took over race timing responsibilities for the club. In 1968, when Aspen was getting ready to host its first official World Cup race, Teddy Armstrong asked Peter if he thought the local restaurants would provide dinners for each of the teams.
I started asking around town if it was feasible to think we could feed these international racers and those teams with managers and coaches and ski tuners and everything. The more we talked about it, the more enthusiasm there was. And as it progressed and it looked like it was going to happen, the whole town got behind it and just was incredible.
Another tradition that was popular was the practice of the local folks opening up their homes to out-of-town racers during the big events.
We'd feed them and house them and get them to the base of the hill so they could practice, and then on race day make sure they were there, and we just kind of look after them while they were in town.
And some kept coming back to the house every year, which was great.
Yeah, some of them we couldn't get rid of, but
It wasn't all work and no play during those years. There was the Aspen Racquet Club, Aspen Yacht Club, day hikes, backpacking trips, and skiing, of course. For Barbara, there was Roaring Fork Hounds and sewing classes at Colorado Mountain College. For Peter, there was hockey with the Aspen Leafs and the Denver Centennial Stars, skydiving, motorcycles, and Woody Creek Raceway.
I had the good fortune of starting out as a goaltender, and no matter where you go or what level you're involved with, they always need goaltenders.
I suppose my first impression of Peter was that even though he went to Williams College, probably wasn't too smart, number one, to go into the restaurant business, and number two, to play goalie on a hockey team.
Peter and Barbara also started Project Graduation, an event designed to keep Aspen High School seniors safe on graduation night.
The idea was just to provide a place where everyone could come together and in a safer situation than perhaps had happened to some of the previous graduations.
We took all the keys away from, or tried to, I think we got the majority, so that kids couldn't be driving home.
That, I guess, could be called the first project graduation.
The activities and volunteering has continued. Barbara works part-time at Lift Up in Glenwood Springs and at health fairs. She still entertains as much with summer picnics and holiday parties at their house near Newcastle. More Than One has become an annual event, but none more popular as the Peach Day Salad Days.
35 to 48 people show up. It's so good to see some of these Aspenites. They're so happy to see some of their friends and they haven't seen for 6 months or something. It's just the best gathering.
I think the reason we all love Barbara Guy so much is her personality and her spirit. She has such a wide range of friends up and down the valley, and she's able to bring everybody together.
For Peter, he was appointed to the board of Hospice of the Valley and is its chairman. He is on the board of the Glenwood Spring Youth Hockey Association and has served as a director at Alpine Bank for 45 years.
Barbara and Peter were key players in the early wonderful community of Aspen, where everybody knew everybody. And both he and Barbara gave greatly to it. They were special people.
You have to look at what they did and how they did it. It was very quiet, it was very modest, very unassuming. They were the heart and soul of the community.